Hey folks, my name is David Merritt, and this is Spring Lake Archery Park. We're currently in the bow shop, and we're going to put together a DVD for you starring my son, Archer Merritt, and it is going to explain to you all about 3D and how kids can get involved with 3D archery and shoot 3D archery. We hope it's going to be exciting. Real quick, I'd like to just show you a couple of things. Archer started off shooting a bow very similar to this when he was about 3, and then he graduated when he was 10 to shooting a compound bow, which is much like this. He's currently shooting a Matthews tournament bow, which is hanging right here in the shop, and he has become fairly accomplished. At the age of 12, he won number 2 in the country at the ASA Classic. He has since won another second place finish in Kentucky at a Pro-Am, and one day he wants to be a pro. So we hope this DVD will show you all the exciting parts of 3D archery and how you can get your kids and how you kids can get involved with 3D archery and shoot.
Hey everybody, I'm Archer Merritt and I love 3D archery. Let me tell you what it's all about. Archery started over 10,000 years ago. Currently it's practiced in 140 countries. This is a longbow, the first type of bow used. It was used for sport in medieval England. People got smarter and developed the idea of bending wood into the shape of a recurve bow. It's a more efficient shape. You get a little bit faster shot with this. You get more penetration on an animal or a target. If you get more penetration, you can feed your family easier. Hey everybody, this is a Matthews Conquest Prestige. Pretty much strictly a tournament bow. Setup I have on it, I've got shoe stabilizers with a 14-inch back bar, a 28-inch front bar. And what that does is it just keeps the bow steady so it doesn't shake in my hand. As far as sights, I'm shooting an XL 3000 adjustable target sight. Just twist this knob right here, and all that does is just move the scope up and down to give different elevations for shooting different yardages. The scope I have on it it's a shrewd scope with a 4-power magnification lens in it. And what the lens does, it just zooms up on the target, makes it easier to see, makes it easier to shoot at. As far as arrows go, shoot a Challenger made by Black Eagle. I shoot blazer vanes on it with gold tip HD pin knocks on it. That's my arrow. As far as releases, I shoot a True Ball HT. It's a back tension release. So I just draw the bow, settle it on my target, pull with my back muscles, and the release head rotates and goes off. That's my setup. My personal goal is to be the best shooter who has ever existed. It's my personal goal, to be honest. I don't want to put limits on myself because I know I can do things that nobody's ever thought of. But all I gotta do is work for them. If I work for them, I'll be able to do them. All it is just putting in time and effort.
Sounds good. Sound like you got the right frame of mind to move forward with it. And I guess practice is the key, right?
Repetition, repetition, repetition.
Every day?
Every day. As many days as I can.
Like in the competitions, what are the distances?
Well, distances range anywhere from 4 yards back to 30 yards for us. And that's one of the key parts is our ability to be able to judge the distance. So when we step up to a target, normally we'll step up and all the guys will say, okay, we're not allowed to talk yardage, but we all usually have about the same number. So we can go up and we guess the target and then we dial the sight right here. I got a cover on it. You gotta have one for competition, but you turn this knob and it moves it up and down. It moves the whole scope housing and everything. And what that does is you have a tape, which is a little piece of paper with yardages marked on it. And you get it from a computer program that you put in your bow speed and a bunch of other stuff. And that'll give you a piece of paper that you sighted it for 20 yards. Wherever that pointer is, you stick that and line that up with 20, and then all the other yardages will be right. So you just judge your target, step up here, set your sight, shoot your target, and then If you're a yard low, depends on what you're aiming at, but if you're aiming at the 12 and you're a yard low at 30 yards, you're going to be an 8 or a 5. So judging yardage is probably about 60 to 70% of the game.
So in other words, there is no, can't use a rangefinder.
Yeah, you can't use your rangefinder.
You have to guess. You have to guess it. But shooting from 4 yards, you actually would shoot from 4 yards?
We have before. We had in state, we had 2 targets, one at 5 and one at 7.
Wow.
And I mean, at that distance, because of the bow, the way the arrow planes out, you have to actually dial like 40 yards on your sight.
So that might be just as difficult to shoot one from that range as it is back at 30, huh?
If you don't practice it, it's more difficult.
Yeah.
Because at 30 yards, at least you know what you're doing. You know how to shoot a 30-yard target. Right. At 4 yards, it's the uncertainty of you don't know, you don't have a 4-yard pin. You got to guess where to dial it, and that makes it a whole lot harder.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's neat.
Yeah, it adds a whole other dimension to it. 3.
How old are you guys?
9.
9 and 10? How long have you just get started doing it, or?
I got my bow for Christmas.
For Christmas?
I got my bow for my birthday. She got an early birthday present.
Do you guys enjoy shooting?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Get pretty good shots.
Hey guys, let me show you how to shoot safely in archery. You always want to stay behind the firing line. It's always going to be marked by something. Cones, tape, just a scratch on the ground. It's always going to be marked by something. So now, when you nock your arrow, there's 2 ways to do it. You can either have the bow pointed down in a safe direction, come over the bow this way, and knock the arrow down. Or, that's how they teach you in indoor and in the schools. Or you can have the bow at your hip, come over the bow, and knock it this way. It's really whichever you prefer, whichever you're easy with. But it's important to know the safe ways to knock it so that you don't end up poking it. Get your arrow, get your release, or if you're shooting with fingers, it doesn't matter. Draw your bow. Always knock and draw your bow in a safe direction, pointed towards your intended target. Then when you draw, you don't want to point the bow way up in the air, just in case it slips or goes off. You always got to think about where that arrow's going. So you just want to do a straight draw, point it right at your target, and just come back nice and smooth. And if you can't just draw straight back, that means you have too much poundage on your bow. So then you need to take your poundage down on your bow so that you can safely draw it. Once you draw the bow, make sure nothing is in the way of your hand or the string. Make sure nobody's in front of you. Always be alert for any people or pets. Now once you shoot the arrow, of course you got to go get it. So I'll go over some safe ways of pulling an arrow. Now once you have the arrow in the target, you have to remove it safely from the target so you can get back and shoot again. Now, if I were to pull the arrow now, it could come back and hit Kayla, my lovely assistant right here. So what you have to do is you got to make sure nobody's within arm reach of you. When you pull the arrow, pull it straight out. When you carry the arrow back to your bow or your stool or whatever, carry it sideways, horizontally to your hips, below hip level. So that way, if you fall, you're not going to stab yourself or anyone around you. So once you carry the arrow back to the target, you need to make sure that you don't run back to your bow, because if you trip and fall, you can hurt yourself. Put the arrow tip first back into a quiver or stool or chair or whatever, and then you're ready to shoot again.
I'm here shooting with my buddy Archer.
Hey Nick, what's up, man? This is my friend Kayla. She's the Open B Women's ASA State Champion. This is her little brother Nick, which you've already met. This is Sierra. She's your little sister. All these guys are a lot of fun to shoot with. They live just south of Petersburg. We're back here shooting the buffalo target. Having a great time. The two main organizations I shoot are ASA and IBO. The only real difference between them, ASA shoots a 12 ring, IBO shoots an 11 ring. I'll explain this further in the next segment.
Also, you want to make sure your foot is against the stake at all times when you're shooting, because some competitions, they will disqualify you if your foot is off the stake or if you're in front of the stake any. So always make sure your foot is against that stake, no matter which side.
One thing you want to keep in mind, always aim at the target pulling back. And try to keep your bow as level as you can.
Okay. In competitions, you gotta keep track so you can know who wins. On this target, we wanted to show you on this target because it's a big buffalo. All the rings are big and nice to see. Okay. See this biggest ring right here? It goes the whole way around them. Right? All the vitals. That's the 8 ring. That's pretty much the kill zone on all the animals. See this smaller ring that's like the size of a kitchen bowl? That is a 10 ring. That's what most competitive shooters are aiming for, is that 10 ring. Now you notice there's 3 rings inside the 10 ring. The center one is only counted in IBO scoring. It's the 11. In ASA, they count the upper 12 and the lower 12. The lower 12 is always in play initially when you get to the targets. But you have the right to call the upper 12 if the lower 12 is blocked or if you just want to shoot at for kicks and giggles. Now, Kayla, I don't know why she wanted to show off, but she hit the 14. Now 14 points it's outside of the 10 ring and it's in this little ring up here. It's about the size of the 12 ring. Now, in ASA, the 14s only count in the shoot down. They've actually took them out of your regular competitions, and that shot would, at ASA, count as an 8. So Nick shot a 10 on this one. Sierra shot a 10 on this one. Kayla shot an 8 on this one. And I lucked out and hit the 12. So that's how you score ASA target.
He's taking bow hunting to a whole nother level with his athleticism. Yeah. Is that Levi? Cameron Haynes. That you, Archer?
Yeah,
Okay, buddy. Take some time. Just glad you called that up, or?
You shoot with Archer, right? Archer
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes, sir.
And what do you think of his skills at 13?
They're a lot higher than most kids at his age. He's very determined. He is. He's very serious about the sport. No matter whether it's just a practice round or it's just a local tournament for fun, he's just very determined. He's always trying to score the best he can score on any target, no matter what.
You shoot with Archer, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Periodically?
Yes, sir.
Never had a golf ball that tastes good.
What do you think at 13? What
Make a good sauce with
what
those.
kind of shooter is he?
They don't make good meat.
I think he's a good technical
Actually, I've never
shooter, and
played
I think if he keeps it up, he can catch Levi one day.
Levi retired. He'll take it.
And Levi is who?
He is the one that wins all the time in the ASA Pro Am,
Senior pro about
and IBO, and what is it, NFAA?
How old is Levi? Twice as old as Archer,
What,
maybe?
25?
26.
25?
Levi's a good shooter.
Yes, sir.
About, I think probably about $1,100. With all the gear I have on it, it's probably $1,500 in it. So it's hard to replace if you lose one or break one.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the poundage on it? Is there a certain, like a hunting bow, what would be the difference between a hunting bow and that shooting bow?
Well, tournament bows, they're often a lot longer and they have a little bit different limb design. And what you can do with the limb design, what that allows you to do is you can have less poundage but still get the same speed and accuracy you would from a hunting bow. So on my hunting bow, I'm shooting about 62 to 65 pounds. On this bow, I'm just shooting 50 48 to 50. So I can do that and still, this bow is shooting faster than my hunting bow is, just because of the different design and the arrows, the different arrows I'm shooting.
So you take a couple shots with it.
Okay, so this big ring right here is the 8. The 8 surrounds the 10 ring, which is this ring right here. The 11's in the center. And on some targets, you'll have a 12 here and a 14 up at the top of the 8. Anything outside the 8 is, on most things, 5. There's a 5 on the outside of the 8. And if you miss the target, it's 0. It doesn't count. Hey, come on in on this one. This is touching the line. If it was on the outside line, just touching the line. If you could fit a piece of paper, if you couldn't fit a piece of paper between this and the line, it'd be an 11. If you could see any little bit of space, then it's a 10. But this one is clearly inside, so that's an 11. This right here is a 12. It's touching that ring right there. And this is an 8. It's inside the big ring. If you have screw-on tips, you want to make sure they're tight. Because if they're not tight, they could fly in all different directions. Because loose tip can mess up the flight of the arrow.